Hey, what's up? I'm Brian Fennell, also known as Bry Guy, and I have a show called Wine Unknown. So if you have any questions that you would like to get answered about wine, just click the link. It's going to send you to my inbox, and you just leave your message there.
That looks good. What's that?
It's Wine Unknown. Welcome to Wine Unknown. I'm your host. My name is Brian Fennell, also known as Bry Guy, and I'm a wine specialist. What does that even mean? Well, it means that I know a lot of information about wine, and I want to share that along with my passion with you guys. So no matter where you're at in your journey, no matter if it's the beginning, the middle, well, let's face it, there's no such thing as the end. This is the show for you. So today's episode, we're going to cover one of my favorite types of wine, which is Riesling. It's so vast. It's so much that you can do with it. We'll jump into it. But by the end of this episode, you'll know what it is, where it can come from, and what kind of foods will pair well with it. So hopefully you have something to drink in front of you, or if you're traveling, just sit back and enjoy the show. Riesling. Riesling is one of those kind of wines that gets along with everybody. Everyone enjoys it. It's so pleasurable. It's like that networker. It's like that one friend when you're at the party and then that friend knows everybody. Everybody's saying hello and they're like, how do you even know them? Well, they had good experiences together. And that's kind of what this wine is and its style. Just for the sheer fact that Riesling can be bone dry and it can go all the way up to super sweet, like a dessert wine. So it just covers all bases, except anything like what a red wine would be able to cover. It just doesn't do that. It just doesn't offer that. But it's a great wine. Like, it's one of those kind of, how would you say, like, gateway white wines. It's one of those introductory to wine. It's the world of wine. If you've never had wine before, if someone puts the right Riesling in front of you, you're going to have a good experience and you're going to want to try other things because you had such a good experience with that kind of wine. I remember the first type of wine that I had, it was a Riesling. And I didn't know any better or anything. I knew that I didn't want to start off with red wine. I just don't know why. I didn't want to start off with red wine, but I'm glad I didn't because the first wine that I can remember that I had was a white wine and it was a Riesling. And I didn't know, and the only reason I did pick it was for the sheer fact that the label looked cool. It kind of reminded me of like anime that I was watching at the time, and I think it had like dragons, like one was a red dragon or orangish kind of dragon, and then there was another bottle next to it from the same producer that had like a purplish kind of like lavender dragon on the label. I think they're dragons. But I do remember they're the producers Pacific Rim, I want to say. One was semi-sweet and the other just said Riesling, something like that. It was along those lines. This was a while ago. But those were the first ones that gravitated me or that I gravitated towards. And I had no idea. I wasn't reading the label or anything, but I was like, white wine, Riesling. I think I heard probably like a music artist say something about Riesling, and I was just like, matter of fact, it was Kanye. When Kanye said, and I'm tripping off the Riesling, I think that was the line. I think that was the line. So that made me think Riesling when I went out to try to start enjoying wine. That helped me on my little journey. That's a little fun fact. As I continued on with my studies, I've learned that Riesling is this really white grape varietal that makes this white wine that's all encompassing. So you're thinking just like sweet, dry, the acidity is perfect. So it goes really well with food. And then like it also has enough sugar to sit there and have a nice mouthfeel, like structure to it. So this is this checks all the boxes off of what do you want in a wine. You know, like you want that structure. You want it to feel like you're drinking something outside of water. And then it has that like sweetness, and our mouths are just geared for sweetness. Like our taste buds just go crazy over it because it's like, oh, it's so delicious and fun. But then also it has that acidity that you want, so your mouth is just like producing more saliva to make it mouth watering. So this is just all just good, 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 good. And as learning on the wine journey, I'm just like, wow, I gotta try all these different Rieslings. Where do I start? Why not? Well, why not just start where the main place where it's going to come from, and that we don't even think about is we're thinking about a German wine. Like there are so many different places in Germany that just has different styles, but for the most part, you're going to think of a sweet wine from Germany until you learn of the different places where it will be like dry. But within that, they have like this scale, this structure where they classify the wines based off of how much residual sugar is left in the grapes. The ones that's going to be on the shelves that you see the most is going to be Cabnat, and that starts with a K and it ends with two T's. Now that's letting you know that it's still going to be a dry wine with a good amount of acidity to it, but it's having a hint of sweetness. So if you're someone who likes really sweet wines, it's going to be hard to come from something like a Moscato to a Cabernet style of Riesling. You're going to be looking for something called a Spätlese, which is higher up on the scale because it has more residual sugar left in it. So that's going to drink a little bit closer towards the sweet wines of like Moscato. And this is for the sheer fact that the grape varietals are dried out even longer, so it's more concentrated with sugar. But with that being said, that means that there's not a lot of it available because there's not enough fluid in order to produce a lot of wine, if that makes any sense to you. Now, the amazing thing about Rieslings from Germany is that they pretty much can pair with anything you throw at them just because the wines are so versatile. I had this Thai cuisine one night at this restaurant, and I was fortunate enough to have a sweet Riesling from Germany, a Spätlese, to pair with it. Oh my goodness, talk about mind blowing. Like, I'm not really good when it comes to spice, but the way that this just worked was fantastic. Like, it cooled off my palate because I'm sitting there panting, I'm fanning myself like, I'm fanning myself. It was an experience. And as soon as I took a sip of the sweet Riesling from Germany, oh my goodness, it's like my mouth instantly cooled down. And that's just because of the sugar. The sugar just coated, just coated my mouth, and it just like, I don't know. I can't even really explain it, but it cooled it down and I was ready for another bite of the food. And I did it with confidence. So I highly recommend that you guys just go out there and you play with whatever food pairing that you can with any kind of Riesling from Germany. It's going to work. Oh my goodness, I'm excited for you. You just try it with any, just like even Asian cuisine. Just try it. It's going to work and you're going to love it. I remember being a part of a wine tasting group or a wine study group here in Philadelphia at Del Fresco's. We used to meet once a week on Sundays. It was myself and a few other sommeliers in the city that were preparing for the quartermaster sommelier exams. So once a week, we used to always come together and we all would bring a bottle, and then there would be a structured kind of theory aspect to it, but the bottles were all blind. So you can get whatever as long as it's a testable bottle for the wine. So one day the focus was Germany and Riesling. So that's the stuff that we went through, right? Now, the wines that we poured, some were red, some were pink, some were white, it was just all over the place. It was this one that stuck out to me though. And it was fantastic and it blew my mind. But I did call it as a Riesling just because it had all the notes that you would expect. It had the texture, the mouthfeel, the acidity, the aromas, everything said Riesling. But from where? I couldn't call where it was from. I mean, you don't you it's extra just kudos if you can call where it's from, but that's not necessary for the level that we were taking of that certification exam. So just calling Riesling, bam, you got it. Being able to explain why, okay, that's good. Now, so I'm sitting here sniffing, and then I'm getting all these tropical fruit flavors. I'm getting just like mangoes. I'm getting like pineapples. I'm getting like fresh white peach. I'm getting all these kind of things, but also I'm getting like some mint. There are other aromas that I'm getting. And the texture of it was really coating. It was medium bodied. So, you kind of felt a little bit more density on your palate, on your mouth. You're just like, okay, this got some weight to it. Uh, your mouth is just like watering. So it's like, oh, the acidity's there. This has this texture. And I can't put my hand on it, but I just know this is a Riesling, right? Pull it out to show which bottle of wine it was, and this was a Riesling from the from the Southern Hemisphere, Australia, by I think it was Pensfold Ben 51. It was a fantastic Riesling, and I don't think at that point I actually tried a Riesling from Australia until that moment, and it was so mind blowing that I had to dive deeper. Now, Penfold is an amazing producer of wine all the way around. Like there's nothing that you're going to get that's just average with them. So that blew my mind. And wow, Riesling. I didn't know Riesling. I knew Riesling could taste good, but I only knew it in the sweet sense. This, we're talking about a dry wine, close to bone dry, but not there because it still has some sugar to it, and it just set my senses off, and it just threw me for a whole loop, a whole whirl. And I would love for you guys to try if you ever can get your hands on a Southern Hemisphere Riesling from Australia. You got to do yourself a favor, and it will change the way you look at the Riesling grape varietal and wine. So instantly, of course, I'm thinking about what should I have with this? What should I do? Because it did have that texture. It had enough to do something different. And what I was thinking, or what I end up doing, was pairing this with curried chicken. Oh my goodness. So I used to work in an Indian cuisine restaurant downtown, and the menu was extensive, and I can tell you all of the every time every time I made a recommendation towards my table on which wine they should get, I always told them that you have to get this Riesling. I know you're looking for something red, but this is going to work out beautifully. And every time, boop, because of the spices, everything's just set their palate off, right? It's just, you're getting so many different flavor profiles that it could become sensory overload until you throw in that Riesling, and that cools down your palate, one. But also you're introducing sugar to all of the spices. So now that's just complementing, it's complementing and just carrying on a whole nother finish. Cause though now they just not taste sweet, but it adds a little bit of, let's see, what that would be a 360, a whole turnaround of from spicy to sweet, or a little bit sugary to carry on the spice notes. Oh no, you should try. You should try it to just like try some fresh ground pepper, right? Do that and then add some simple syrup to it and watch how much that black peppercorn lingers in a pleasant way, because it's balanced out with the sweetness. Oh my gosh. That's some fantastic stuff. Now, there's another place that blew my mind that makes great Riesling wine, and it's here in America. It's on the East Coast. It's this place called New York, but not New York City. Really north of it, it's this place called Finger Lakes, New York. And they have a range of Rieslings that they offer. This is where I got introduced to library wines. These are just like aged wines from way back when that they just have like in their portfolio, just chilling. And even though New York or the Finger Lakes it's a newer kind of younger winemaking area, it still has a good bit of history. And we'll get to that in a New York episode, but let's just bring it back to the Riesling. So they had this event or this dinner at this restaurant here in Philadelphia called Barbuzzo. And at that time I was working at a wine bar called Vintage, which is across the street from there. This event was hosted by the Finger Lakes Alliance. And their whole thing is just to dedicate their whole thing is just to dedicate the winemaking region of New York and go on tour pretty much to highlight, hey, we make wine. We have this amazing thing over here, and I think you should try it. So they just expose it to different markets, different demographics, and you're tasting so many different winemakers' wine there. And it's intimate. All of the winemakers came up and presented. They told us about the history of their winery and of the area in itself. And it was really fascinating to know that they're all just like, they're not competitors. They all share, they all help each other because they understand the bigger cause. So when you're tasting their wines, you kind of sense that. You kind of sense that because they're vastly different. But at the same time, they're all similar because it's the grape varietal of Riesling. The one that sticks out the most, that resonates the most with me, was this one of the wineries. It is called Anthony's Road. Oh my goodness, tasting through their portfolio of just the Rieslings were fantastic. They had sparkling, they had a library one, they had a dry one, they had an off dry, they had a semi-sweet, and they had their sweet one. Now, the semi-sweet, oh my goodness, was the perfect balance of everything. Like it was sweet, but it wasn't sweet. It wasn't off dry. Oh my goodness, I'm sitting here trying to relive it and explain it to you, but it's just like mind blowing. It's mind blowing. And we had that with duck. Like that pairing was just so good. It was roasted duck, and it had these great fresh, like, parsley garnishes on it, and the sauce was this nice like brown demi-glaze. It was a fantastic pairing. It was the perfect way to introduce this style of winemaking from here in America, because usually everybody thinks food and wine with like Italian foods and wines and French, but here in New York, they're doing amazing quality stuff, and they're using Riesling. So if you ever see a Riesling from the Finger Lakes, do yourself a favor and pick it up. If you come across Anthony's Road, pick it up. You might have better luck everywhere if you see Wagner. That's usually, they're like the real commercial producer that kind of get their products everywhere on all of the shelves. So you'll definitely be able to see that one. I highly recommend their semi-sweet as well. Like I said, it's a gateway. It's a gateway to so much more. Man, just reliving it. But we're talking about the perfect balance of sweet and tart and body and structure. Like this, everything is in harmony with this great varietal of Riesling right here in America, the Finger Lakes. Well, there you have it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed yourselves. Hopefully you've learned something about Riesling. You know what it is, you know where it can come from, and you know what foods to try with it. You should experiment because it is limitless, let me tell you. Ah, man, now I kind of want some sashimi. There's all kinds of things that I want to try this with. Just reliving this moment. All right. Thank you for checking out Wine Unknown. Once again, my name's Bryant Fennell, also known as Bry Guy, your wine specialist. And if you like this show, please like, subscribe, rate it, leave comments, tell a friend, do all of the things that you would do with, I guess, anything else you like, you know? It doesn't hurt to leave a review. It doesn't hurt to tell people. If you also have a wine question, please shoot over an email to askbryguy@gmail.com, or you can click on the Ask Bry Guy link in the description. It will take you straight there for you to ask whatever it is that you want to ask. Love to hear from you. Ciao.